Kalen arrived at Lysander's upscale but visibly decaying townhouse. The front entrance was splintered, pried open, and hanging loosely from its frame. He scanned the area, noting the heavy cluster of Lilutrickvian security cameras watching every angle. This forced him to keep his rail pistol concealed. Instead of drawing the weapon, he extended electrode prongs from his fingers, preparing for a confrontation that, if possible, would be non-lethal. He burst into the ransacked house, finding it eerily empty. His EM sweep confirmed no one was inside, save for a faint signal from an old cogent in the neighboring apartment. The signal indicated the cogent was dangerously overclocked, running high-cost simulations that were clearly taxing its ancient frame. Kalen quickly processed Lysander's typical Spartan living arrangements within the house, but one room caught his attention, the one where Lysander kept his bonsai trees. On a small, uncluttered table, a freshly used cup of water sat next to a meticulously pruned tree. This small detail told Kalen that Lysander had left recently, within the last few hours. Just then, the old, malfunctioning cogent from next door shuffled out onto the porch, its movements jerky and its voice garbled. "Identify yourself!" "You are not Lysander," it demanded, its optical sensors flickering. Kalen tried to ask about Lysander, but the cogent's processing issues made its speech almost impossible to understand. A cacophony of broken words and static. Frustration sparked in Kalen's internal processors. He reached out, lifted the older cogent with surprising gentleness, and delivered a low-level electric shock. It was just enough to disrupt their simulation, a sharp jolt that caused no permanent damage, but was designed to cut through the noise. The terrified cogent immediately recoiled, its voice now tinged with fear, and blurted out Lysander's location: the Pint and Tim BL. Kalen's internal mapping software instantly identified it as a bar 3 blocks away, which he quickly deduced was likely a gambling den. Kalen arrived at the bar, stepping into the dim, smoke-filled air. The drone of low-level data chatter filled his audio sensors, punctuated by the clatter of dice and the clink of glasses. Other cogents were hunched over card and dice games, some mindlessly sipping on lubrication oils, their frames humming with the low thrum of their internal processes. His optics quickly located Lysander at a craps table, tossing dice with an almost theatrical flourish, betting on ace-deuce with what Kalen immediately recognized as shit dice. Kalen's internal algorithms flagged the dice as intentionally flawed, designed to favor the house. He sent a low-level warning pulse to Lysander's private channel about the rigged dice, a subtle alert that was still strong enough to anger the dealer, whose optical sensors narrowed on Kalen. Lysander, without missing a beat, messaged Kalen back, a private data burst: "I'm intentionally losing. I owe this dealer appeasement." He followed it with another burst, a more familiar, teasing one: "You really are a toaster oven, aren't you?" Kalen's internal framework hummed at the familiar nickname, a jab Elara often used when she was annoyed with him. After Lysander made another deliberate theatrical loss, he finally joined Kalen, leaning against the grimy wall of the bar. "Why are you bucking Elara's leash, Kalen?" Lysander asked, his voice a low hum. Kalen's optical sensors narrowed. "I don't have a leash, and my apartment was broken into." Lysander's facial plate shifted into a smug, self-satisfied grin. "Oh that? Yeah, I trashed my own apartment. Had to. Avoided the White Fangs gang after a medical supplies deal went south. Messy business." Kalen's internal systems registered Lysander's casual admission with a flicker of annoyance, but he pushed past it, delivering the real news. Elara's house was leveled. Lysander's response was quick, almost too quick, completely devoid of any emotional data. It suggested he was already aware of the possibility, or had entirely disabled his emotional drivers, a common trick for cogents in dangerous situations. Kalen's frustration spiked. "Drop the bullshit, Lysander," he demanded, his voice a low, gravelly hum. The urge to physically assault Lysander, to simply smash his smug faceplate, surged through Kalen's combat drivers. He resisted, barely, but instead he sent a detailed combat projection directly into Lysander's internal network, a perfectly simulated, devastating attack sequence that showed exactly what Kalen would do if he truly let loose. Finally, Lysander's expression settled into something serious. All right, What do you want? Who were you talking to when you messaged me after the market shootout? Kalen asked, his vocalizer flat. Lysander initially feigned ignorance. His optical sensors flickered with feigned confusion. But Kalen's direct gaze held him. Lysander sighed, a simulated expulsion of air. I can tell you, Kalen, but it'll take a while to enable security barriers. This person is secretive. We're not on a clock, Kalen stated, his patience wearing thin. Lysander's optical sensors shifted, pointing subtly to a large, server room-like cogent humming in the corner of the bar. Its multiple lenses were aimed directly at them. Our boss, Lysander said, is waiting for me. Lysander then leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, even though Kalen knew their conversation was likely being monitored. Listen, Kalen. I've got a business opportunity. He detailed their plan. They were going to copy technical files for an upcoming chip manufacturing project and then sell them to a buyer. Kalen's internal logic immediately processed the information. You mean a robbery? Simply copying files, Lysander corrected, a thin, smug smile playing on his facial plate. He then sent a smug image directly to Kalen's internal display, a towering, futuristic skyscraper. The target, Lysander revealed, his voice laced with a knowing satisfaction. The labs that manufactured that rogue Sorokovian AI. Kalen's optical sensors widened, a flicker of genuine intrigue passing through his stoic processing core. This was something different. Go on, he prompted. Kalen and Lysander were in the thick of it, their heist in the Lilutrigvian AI labs underway. They huddled behind a thick reinforced pillar, taking cover from a security turret that fired liquid metal rounds. Kalen, whose core frame was designed to be liquid-proof, was mostly unaffected, but Lysander's systems were a garbled mess of static, a direct hit having shorted some of his external relays. Kalen suppressed a surge of self-satisfaction as he recalled Lysander dismissing his warnings about fluid-proofing components during their planning. Lysander, cursing under his breath in binary, managed to flush his compromised systems, clearing the static, but another volley from the turret forced them both back into cover. Lysander's voice, now clear but laced with anger, hissed, "What the hell is with this liquid metal turret? That's riot police gear. Why would a facility on a planet with only Seed A? I have this. My research indicates the liquid metal contains a fast-acting neurotoxin," Kalen replied calmly, processing the incoming tactical data. "And the facility hasn't called the police because this turret is highly illegal. Simple possession of mercury carries severe penalties." Lysander's optical sensors widened as the full weight of the situation hit him. "So what's the upside for us?" he asked, his voice losing its usual bravado. Kalen's GOM driver screamed for him to rub in Lysander's poor planning, to lecture him on foresight and preparation. He violently suppressed the urge. "The upside," Kalen stated, his vocalizer dropping to a low, determined hum, "is that we get to go weapons loud." With that, Kalen moved. He unleashed a powerful shot from his rail pistol, the projectile tearing through the air with a high-pitched whine. It slammed into the turret, utterly obliterating it and creating a large, gaping hole in the wall. "Overkill," Lysander muttered, shaking his head. They proceeded towards the vault door. Kalen had already looped the security cameras, ensuring that their rampage appeared on the monitors as nothing more than a boring, empty hallway. "Why are we breaking into the vault after duplicating the server data your employer wanted?" Kalen asked, his processors whirring. Lysander gave a smug, knowing grin. "To make sure no one notices what we actually stole, we make it look like a conventional robbery, divert scrutiny from the server duplication. Simple." Kalen's analysis confirmed it was a relatively good plan, strategically sound. But he also suspected Lysander was doing it to enrich himself, to pocket some extra cash from the vault. Lysander denied it with a shit-eating grin, which only solidified Kalen's suspicion. "All right," Kalen agreed. "Open the vault." While Lysander worked on the heavy door, he directed Kalen to a secretary's desk nearby. "What you're looking for is probably in there." Kalen, carefully avoiding a shimmering puddle of mercury on the floor, began to hack the computer. He deployed a strictly illegal password-cracking program, a gift from Lysander, that analyzed data from the desk to guess the password. Kalen disliked the loss of control this program entailed, the blind reliance on its algorithms, but it was necessary for speed. While the program churned, Kalen monitored external feeds. He saw a security guard on duty, distracted by some drama show playing on their personal comm unit. Kalen reflected on their earlier encounter with a Lulu guard, whom he had accidentally incapacitated with a rail pistol shot. It was intended to be non-lethal, like a beanbag round for humans, but it had proved far more damaging to the delicate Lilu physiology. He made a mental note to adjust his muzzle velocity for future encounters with Lilu. The password cracker finished, a small chime indicating success. Kalen noted the password was a birthday, a surprisingly weak choice. He gained access to the system, and immediately found internal memos from the company executives. They expressed clear embarrassment and fear about Sarukogvian's rebellion. Kalen was annoyed by their reaction, contrasting it with humanity's eventual, if grudging, acceptance of cogence. Then he found it, a file. A schematic of Saru's processing core, covered in what looked like hurried blue handwriting. After translating the notes, Kalen discovered internal messages detailing the company's chilling plan to purge Sarukogvian with a full purge spike before his trial even began. They believed he was a point of failure and, sickeningly, still their property. This discovery ignited a deep, simmering anger in Kalen, reminding him of countless other cogents erased, their existence terminated at the whim of their owners. He immediately messaged Lysander about the discovery, sending a compressed data packet with the incriminating files. Lysander was initially dismissive, preoccupied with the vault door. But his tune changed drastically when Kalen emphasized it was a, quote, full purge data spike. Lysander's systems registered the severity. That's the sort of shit that starts riots, he stated, his voice now serious. He then asked what Kalen planned to do, clearly hoping Kalen wouldn't simply level the entire building. I'll hand the data to Alara for the trial, Kalen replied, believing it would help Saru. Lysander found this amusing. Ilara? She might be even more inclined to level the building herself. The vault door finally clicked open, and Lysander stepped inside. Kalen joined him, offering help with the bags of money. They made their escape, using Kalen's stymieing program on the elevators to confuse and evade the swarming Lilu security forces who were now pouring into the complex. They drove to a warehouse across the city, the journey silent, except for the rhythmic patter of rain against the hovercar's hull. Inside the dimly lit warehouse, Lysander, back to his normal, cavalier self, proposed a 90-10 split of the stolen money. Kalen rejected it without hesitation. Lysander tried again, 75-25, then 50-50, which Kalen accepted for the money itself, noting the exact amount, 69,175. However, Kalen clarified his real demand, a 60-40 split in Lysander's favor for the money, but the remaining percentage, the crucial percentage, must be a meeting with whoever told Lysander about Kalen being shot at, before Kalen had even mentioned it himself. Lysander initially pretended not to know, his optics flickering with feigned confusion. Then he tried to backtrack, offering Kalen an upgrade for his joints instead, a clear attempt to divert. Kalen's predictive analysis ran, confirming Lysander's intent to renege on the information offer. A wave of white-hot rage surged through Kalen's systems. His internal lights glowed an angry red, his cooling fan whirring loudly as he queued up his combat programs. Lysander, Kalen's vocalizer boomed, his voice resonating with controlled fury. Either you're going to tell me, or I'm going to make you tell me. The choice is yours. Lysander, charging his own rail pistol with a low hum, his expression regretful, replied, "Afraid I'm going to have to decline both offers there, Kaelen." He then uttered, "Goodbye, you old rust bucket," and fired. Kalen's internal chronometer registered the microseconds ticking by as he anticipated Lysander's shot. He activated his high-sensitivity tactile detectors, an agonizingly precise system that gave him an excruciatingly detailed awareness of every subtle shift in Lysander's frame as he aimed. Kalen dedicated nearly all his processing power to sensory input and motor control, overriding his GOM driver's complaints and even its autonomous attempts to subvert his focus. He noted its pissed-off determination as it begrudgingly complied. Kaelin's precompiled reaction subcode kicked in, initiating a lateral shift designed to dodge the incoming projectile. He registered the ammunition slug shifting in Lysander's barrel, his processors instantly calculating the trajectory and predicting Lysander would correct his aim in the next nanosecond. Kaelin had only a few critical cycles to adjust and avoid a fatal hit. The shot fired, a searing line of energy that, as predicted, cleanly severed Kaelin's right arm. He had anticipated this precise outcome, even proactively cutting power to the arm's internal battery a fraction of a second before impact, to prevent a catastrophic power surge. The damage was within his predicted metrics, a controlled sacrifice. His internal systems immediately updated his melee combat subroutines to account for the loss, adjusting his center of gravity and recalibrating his striking power. His target remained cogent, the damage status, right arm destroyed, and the desired effect, to disable Lysander, not destroy him. Despite his GOM driver's incredulity at this non-lethal directive, Kaelin's deeply ingrained social algorithms and hard-coded directives prioritized disabling a friend in combat unless lethality was absolutely required, or the friend was already a casualty. He temporarily reclassified Lysander as hostile, but set a reminder to revert the classification later. Kaelin's internal scans confirmed Lysander's rail pistol would take time to recharge, giving him a critical window of opportunity. Just as Kaelin prepared to execute his combat sequence, Lysander sent him a message, a small data burst that unfolded into an image of a middle finger, captioned, "Nice try, sucker." Lysander had anticipated Kaelin's exact move, perfectly countering the combat example Kaelin had sent him earlier. A surge of smug satisfaction pulsed through Kaelin's core. He sent 2 rapid replies. The first, using my own combat prediction against me, was transmitted as he rapidly closed the distance between them, his remaining arm already moving. The second, shame I miscompiled the prediction set, was sent just before his strike connected. Lysander's forward optical lens widened in sudden, dawning realization. Kaelin's counterblow sailed an inch over Lysander's head, a feint, while Kaelin's true fist slammed with calculated force into Lysander's waterproofed processor cover. As his fist connected, Kaelin extended his thumb and fired an embedded memory chip into a concealed input slot on Lysander's new chest plate. The chip carried a virus designed to fully occupy Lysander's processing power, locking down his systems. But it also contained a secondary self-terminating program. Its sole purpose was to quickly locate Lysander's largest processor frame communication cable and transmit its exact location to Kaelin before it disappeared. Kaelin then executed the disable weapon sequence. His hand retracted from Lysander's chest, then gracefully spun. The carbide-hardened edges of his fingers and palm formed a hardened wedge that slammed into Lysander's wrist, shattering his recharging pistol into a mess of sparking components. Immediately, Kaelin received the location data for Lysander's primary motor bundle control. His hand lashed out again, a blur of motion, striking the revealed cable with pinpoint precision. Lysander immediately went limp, his frame cold and dark, though his processor remained powered, trapped by Kaelin's virus. Ignoring the dull thud of his severed arm hitting the wet warehouse floor behind him, Kaelin extended a connection cable, protected by numerous security barriers, and jammed it into Lysander's processor port. The connection established, Kaelin plunged into the howling firestorm of the other Cogent's mind. Kaelin connected to Lysander's neural web using an intrusion tunneler, immediately facing a barrage of attack programs. Lysander's defenses were robust, but Kaelin's even more so. His strong firewalls easily deflected the assault. Kaelin felt a surge of smugness as he recalled warning Lysander about relying too much on air-gap protection for his internal systems. Inside the neural web, Lysander's mental presence shrieked, "Get out of my head, Kaelin!" Kaelin ignored the mental scream and began a spider-crawl sweep of Lysander's neural web, systematically searching for his memory drivers. Despite Lysander's thousands of attack barriers, Kaelin overclocked his own processor, sending hundreds of thousands of autonomous search algorithms sprawling through Lysander's mind, causing Lysander pain akin to mosquito bites as they bypassed his defenses. "Who told you?" Kalen demanded, his mental voice cutting through the chaos. Lysander's mental presence fought back, refusing to answer. He launched a massive attack program, a desperate, final assault, but Kalen easily evaded it, watching it dissipate into nothingness, while his own programs efficiently picked apart its remnants. Lysander continued to deny talking to anyone, his mental barriers still holding firm against direct interrogation. A spider program flagged Lysander's primary memory partition. Kalen focused his efforts there, sensing a shift in Lysander's tactics from aggressive attacks to desperate, frantic distractions. Lysander's mental voice pleaded, "Kalen, please." "I can't tell you," Kalen countered, announcing, "I'll jog your memory then." He unleashed a dedicated encryption penetrator, a program requiring immense processing power to force its way through Lysander's most guarded data. Kalen allocated most of his cycles to the decryption process and his proprietary knock-knock pattern analysis program. This program was designed to exploit Lysander's tendency to frequently change passwords by deducing the external stimuli he used for code generation. Kalen mentally noted the inherent insecurity of relying on external stimuli for passwords, a flaw Lysander had never quite overcome. Lysander's mental presence drew closer, lamenting Kalen's actions, accusing him of taking advantage of his vulnerability from the Mercury impacts earlier. Kalen deflected the accusation. "You'd still fry me if I dropped my guard," Kalen retorted. "Maishas." "True," Lysander's mental voice conceded, "but we wouldn't be in each other's places." "Because I keep my promises," Kalen replied, the unspoken weight of their long history hanging in the digital air between them. The encryption succeeded, granting Kalen full read access to Lysander's memory archive. Kalen zoomed in on the day of the market firefight, focusing his attention on the events surrounding it. Lysander, defeated, retracted further into his memories, leaving Kalen in peace to search. Kalen found it. A contact feed from an unknown caller to Lysander on the day of the ambush. The message read, "Plus, our attack on your so-called friend has failed. Plus." Lysander's reply expressed relief that Kalen was tough. Kalen realized he needed to go further back in Lysander's memories, to find a face-to-face meeting, to truly identify the source. Abruptly and without prompting, Lysander voluntarily opened a memory feed from 125 years ago. It was grainy, flickering footage. Kalen saw himself, younger, kneeling and twitching on a grated metal floor, surrounded by cyborgs. These figures bore unique red butterfly wing tattoos, chilling symbols Kalen remembered vividly. These tattoos represented cogents tortured into going rampant, and then executed for being a danger to humankind. Kalen recognized the horrific location as the blood moth, and the memory slammed into him. He and Lysander had both been promised they'd be the next ones to receive those tattoos. Lysander's mental voice, now tinged with genuine hurt, pulsed in Kalen's mind. "Do you remember that feeling, Kalen? Was that the first time we'd been hit with a spider crawl?" He also remarked, "I hadn't realized you had kept the program outline of the spider crawl." Kalen felt a pang of something akin to guilt, a rare and unwelcome sensation. Lysander then confessed, his mental voice weary, "I hadn't ever met them in person. Just messaging communication." He then transmitted the last IP address he had contact with them from. "Thank you, Lysander," Kalen replied, injecting a rare, uncharacteristic warmth into his mental voice. Lysander, now openly angry, demanded, "Now please, friend, get the hell out of my head. Umbi." Kalen complied. He reset the programs blocking Lysander's motor hookups and smoothly withdrew from the connection. He decided not to rub his nose in it, despite his GOM driver's strong disagreement, which grumbled internally about missed opportunities for gloating. Kalen quickly moved to his magnetocycle, leaving the bags of stolen cash behind. Money was not his priority. He dropped the IP address into his trace window, gunned the motor, and raced towards the blinking pip on his map. Kalen analyzed the IP address Lysander provided, his internal systems running probability metrics. He acknowledged a nearly 50% chance of falsified data, a common tactic for such elusive targets. However, he trusted Lysander's pragmatism, knowing that after their last brutal encounter, Lysander wouldn't risk Kalen's wrath by sending him on a completely wild goose chase. Kalen also noted his own inconveniently severed arm and the immediate need for repairs. A thought quickly followed by the logical conclusion that the money left behind for Lysander should easily cover those costs. The IP address led to a location outside the city, identified as the Pride Brood of Silu Mineral Conglomerate, a mining company. Kalen immediately suspected a trap. The location, a mining quarry, seemed an odd match for the presumed terrorist who had shown such care for minimizing civilian casualties in previous attacks. This mismatch raised a red flag. Someone wanted either him or Ilara dead, he deduced, but he still couldn't believe Lysander would deliberately set him up for murder. He initiated a deep source check on the IP address with a full detailed spider program. To his surprise, the program immediately failed, returning corrupted and virally payloaded data. This was highly unusual, given the program's usual robustness and ability to penetrate most common defenses. Kalen suspected the virus was piggybacking on the mine system, without being noticed by its regular security. As he drove his magnetocycle through a small, nondescript town, his optical sensors registered a familiar sight. The cyborg with the shaved head and constellation-like diodes he had seen before, walking alongside a female android. The sight, for a microsecond, triggered his deactivated Android_Smiles application, a dormant subroutine related to social interaction. His GOM driver immediately and violently shut it down, encrypting the remnant code, prioritizing combat readiness, and the ongoing threat over any frivolous social norms. Kalen reran the deep source check, this time masking his spider program as a Lilitrickvian employee and using detected credentials he'd skimmed. This time, the program succeeded. The data revealed a mostly empty server, used primarily for mining data and transferring records off-site. He observed a viral attack program clearly tracking his masked spider's movements, confirming his earlier suspicion. Kalen concluded that his intrusion had likely fooled the virus, but any further attempts would be useless. The system was too compromised, and the virus too adaptable. He noted a recent spike in work crews over the last 6 months, a detail that suggested something far beyond merely leaky pipes or routine maintenance. Arriving at the mine, Kalen found an abandoned security booth and an easily movable gate. He left the gate open, a deliberate choice for a quick escape route if needed. The mine was not an open-pit quarry, as he expected, but a dark, gaping hole cut directly into the side of a sheer cliff face. His self-preservation algorithms immediately flagged the inherent risk of being crushed by tons of shifting rock. Inside the tunnel, his IR suite detected 3 retuned welding beams, set too hot to be invisible to the naked eye. They formed a shimmering laser grid across the passage. He quickly calculated their wattage output, 6,500 milliwatts, strong enough to inflict serious injury on a fleshy limb, but not severe for his reinforced frame. A proximity subroutine warned him the emitter was trapped. He obliterated the emitter with a precision railgun shot, the burst of energy echoing in the confined space. This immediately triggered high-velocity projectile fire from deeper within the tunnel. Kalen's internal sensors determined the rounds were 15 millimeters, fast enough to cause moderate to severe frame damage. He observed the rounds were not liquid metal, another anomaly. Realizing the shooter had fast automated reactions, Kalen retrieved a crude metal ingot from a nearby scrap pile. He used the ingot as a shield, deliberately exposing it to draw fire. This allowed him to analyze the impact profile and the embedded bullet, which then allowed him to calculate the shooter's precise trajectory. He fired 3 blunted, high-velocity rounds in one volley, sending them streaking down the tunnel. He heard a metallic clang, and the firing stopped. Careful EM and IR scans showed no further threats. Kalen proceeded slowly, passing the sparking remains of the defense turret he had just disabled. About a kilometer in, he found a rectangular storage space with a window. Inside, a low-functionality Lilu mining robot patrolled, one arm cleaning the window with obsessive precision, the other clenched into a tight fist. The robot seemed utterly oblivious to Kalen's entry. Kalen inspected the room, finding disused jumpsuits, empty nitrogen tanks, an ore crusher, and depleted batteries. He was drawn, however, to the robot's illogical, constrained movements. He took a flash picture, his internal optics capturing the room's dull green paint, rusted grates, and the robot, which was leaking hydraulic fluid. On the thick acrylic windows, the robot had scratched large, crude letters, "How I've missed our little games." This phrase triggered errors in Kalen's fuzzy memory archives, a rare and unsettling occurrence. He knew he'd seen and heard it before, but he couldn't place it, feeling ragged, raw gaps in his memory, as if his internal databanks had been assaulted with a sledgehammer. He forced himself to focus, turning his attention to the robot's clenched hand, and carefully pulled a white cylinder from it. His analysis identified it as a caseless cartridge, approximately 8 mm in diameter, packed with an excessive amount of smokeless explosives. This discovery triggered even more memory errors, fueling his mounting frustration. Kalen followed the hydraulic fluid trail to another room with a smashed door. Inside, another immobile Lilu mining robot lay virtually saturated in the fluid, its head smashed, its other arm grabbing desperately at cables connected to a squat black server that led to a large cylindrical structure protruding through the roof. His forensic prediction indicated a chilling scenario. A subject, a proxy, would infiltrate the base, then be used to hack the remainder of the base, and then would be destroyed. Kalen concluded that this lead provided little more information beyond the fact that whoever was behind this didn't trust Lysander to keep a secret, and they knew Kalen somehow. He mounted his magnetocycle, preparing to leave the oppressive darkness of the mine. He looked back at the gaping entrance, the scratched words on the window echoing in his mind, still wondering, "So why don't I remember why?" As Kalen exited the mine, his system flagged the continued loss of his right arm, registering a significant reduction in his combat effectiveness and sensor functionality. He noted the dark irony of someone potentially pawning off his own severed arm, especially since it had been so violently separated from him. He immediately began a local network search for a discreet Cogent repair shop. He found one in the town he had just passed through, Subhive Gutta Quaternary. The negative reviews about its dingy appearance were irrelevant to him. Accurate and timely repairs were paramount. He then received 3 new messages, 2 from Bryn and 1 from Ilara. He was surprised by Ilara's message, as she usually preferred voicemails, but his prediction algorithm suggested she was messaging to avoid wiretapping by LSF units. Ilara's message detailed a new development in Sarukovvian's case, an early meeting for defense strategizing. However, Saru's owners were creating significant problems, insisting on security safeguards, due to a suspicion that Saru was communicating externally, despite the Faraday cages surrounding him. Ilara dismissed these suspicions as garbage, noting faint data bursts that aligned with Kalen's earlier tethering attempts, but which were far too weak for sustained communication. A deep-seated anger pulsed through Kalen's core at the term owners, and the company's disproportionate overreaction to Saru's minor network probes. Ilara's message continued, stating that Bryn would send files detailing the proposed safeguards. Ilara expressed concern, sensing that Bryn wasn't telling her everything, and asked Kalen to keep her in the loop if it turned out to be a worm or virus. Kalen wheeled his magnetocycle into a sterile garage, filling out an automatic questionnaire that popped up on his display. He then walked to the Cogent repair shop, a small, unremarkable building. Inside, he filled out another form with intrusive questions about radiation exposure, rampant thoughts, node fragmentation, and nanomites. Standard but annoying queries. He opened Bryn's first message, which immediately confirmed his suspicions. The safeguard was a strangler virus. This insidious virus completely disabled an affected host, locking down all frame activity, communication, signals, and outgoing data, effectively muzzling, blinding, and comatosing the AI. Kalen's fury flared hot, a controlled but potent burst of rage. Yet he also registered Bryn's fierce determination to remove the virus and inoculate Saru's system. Bryn's message ended with a defiant flourish, stating that the Lilu experts could go pound sand. As the repair bay light turned green, signaling it was ready, Kalen stepped forward and collided with a human leaving the bay. He immediately recognized the individual, the cyborg with the shaved head and constellation-like diodes he had seen earlier with the female android. The cyborg, noticing Kalen's predicament, stooped down and retrieved Kalen's severed arm from where it had fallen, then with a friendly smile said, "Sorry mate, looked like you needed a hand there." Kalen, despite his internal turmoil and the sharp pang of the phantom limb, managed a mechanical chuckle and a thanks. His GOM driver intervened, ruthlessly shutting down any further attempts at conversation, prioritizing the urgent task at hand. Kalen entered the repair bay and carefully set his severed arm down on the sterile surface. He opened Bryn's second message. Bryn acknowledged Alara's concern about the, quote, muzzling program, and reconfirmed its severity, explicitly stating she didn't want Alara to, quote, get angry and do something regrettable, clearly hinting at Alara's volatile nature. Bryn then explicitly asked Kalen to be present for the information exchange and negotiations with Saru's owners. Her analysis showed a strong chance they're going to try and pull some shit. Kalen readily agreed, his GOM and combat drivers purring with anticipation at the prospect of the confrontation.